I, 30M, grew up in what I can only describe as a deeply unbalanced household with my younger sister, 27F, and our parents. From the very beginning, it was clear that my sister was destined to be the golden child while I was relegated to being the family disappointment. This wasn't just about normal sibling rivalry, it was a systematic pattern of favoritism that shaped our entire family dynamic. Our parents are first-generation immigrants who worked hard to build a successful construction company in America. My dad always preached about the importance of following a traditional career path: doctor, lawyer, or engineer. My sister, being the perfect child she was, chose medicine and made them proud. I, on the other hand, was always drawn to fashion and retail, which my parents saw as beneath our family's status. Growing up, every achievement of mine was measured against my sister's accomplishments. When I got straight A's in high school, they'd remind me that my sister was taking advanced placement classes. When I got accepted to a good business school, they pointed out that my sister was heading to medical school. It was exhausting and demoralizing, but I learned to live with it. After graduation, I started working at a major retail chain. My parents saw this as a personal failure, their son, working in a store while their daughter was doing her residency at a prestigious hospital. What they didn't understand was that I was learning everything I could about the business. I started as a sales associate and worked my way up through every position: inventory manager, assistant store manager, and finally regional manager. I learned about supply chains, merchandising, customer behavior, staff management, and everything else that goes into running a successful retail operation. During these 5 years, I was also developing my own clothing line designs. I spent my weekends at design workshops, networking with suppliers, and creating detailed business plans. I lived frugally and saved every penny I could. My coworkers often joked that I treated the store like my own business, learning every aspect of operations like I was preparing for something bigger. They weren't wrong. 2 years ago, I decided it was time to make my move. I had saved about $100,000, but I needed more capital to really do things right. I had identified the perfect location in an up-and-coming neighborhood, secured preliminary agreements with suppliers, and even had a few potential employees lined up. All I needed was investors. I initially approached several banks and local investors, but the amounts they were willing to invest weren't enough. That's when I decided to approach my parents. Despite our strained relationship, I knew they had the means to invest. My dad's construction company was doing well, and my mom's family had old money. More importantly, I thought they might finally see that I was serious about my career. To my surprise, they seemed genuinely interested. My dad actually spent time going through my business plan, making suggestions, and introducing me to his business contacts. My mom started bragging to her friends about her entrepreneurial son. For 6 months, everything seemed perfect. They agreed to invest $500,000 for a 30% stake in the business. We had lengthy discussions about expansion plans, profit sharing, and future growth. They even helped me negotiate better terms with suppliers using their business connections. Feeling confident about their commitment, I started making concrete moves. I paid a $25,000 non-refundable deposit on a retail space. I signed preliminary contracts with suppliers, committed to minimum order quantities, and most significantly, submitted my resignation at work. My boss was supportive and even wrote me a glowing recommendation letter. I felt like finally, after years of being the family disappointment, I was going to prove myself. Then everything fell apart. A week after I quit my job, my parents invited me over for dinner. As soon as I walked in, I could tell something was wrong. My sister was there too, which was unusual since she normally worked evening shifts at the hospital. They sat me down in the living room, and my dad started talking about how they had been reconsidering their investment. My sister had apparently reviewed my business plan and convinced them it was a bad investment. She went on a long monologue about how retail was a dying industry, how online shopping was the future, and how my business model was outdated. Keep in mind, this is coming from someone who has never worked a day in retail and whose entire business experience consists of running a private medical practice for less than a year. When I tried to defend my plan and point out that I had already quit my job and paid deposits, my dad just shrugged it off. He suggested I could probably get my old job back if I apologized to my boss. My mom chimed in saying maybe this was a sign that I should consider a more stable career, possibly something in healthcare administration since my sister could help me get started. The most infuriating part was how my sister sat there with this smug look on her face, like she had just saved our parents from making a huge mistake. She even had the audacity to say she was doing this for my own good, that she didn't want to see me fail. This coming from someone who had tried to sabotage every achievement of mine since childhood. I left their house that night determined to make this work without them. I took out high-interest loans, maxed out my credit cards, and reached out to everyone I knew for investments. A few of my former colleagues from the retail chain believed in me and invested small amounts. I also managed to convince a local angel investor who had successfully built several retail businesses to come on board. The first year was brutal. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I slept on a mattress in my office to save on rent. I learned to do everything myself, from managing inventory and handling payroll to cleaning the store and making deliveries. But slowly, things started falling into place. My designs caught on with the right crowd, the location I chose turned out to be perfect, and word of mouth spread quickly. Now, 2 years later, my business has exceeded all expectations. We have 3 successful locations, a thriving online store, and plans to expand to 2 more cities next year. Our revenue has grown by 300% since we started, and we're actually turning down potential investors because we don't need the capital. Last week, my parents showed up at my flagship store unannounced. They walked around like they owned the place, commenting on how impressed they were with everything. Then they dropped the real reason for their visit: they wanted to invest now. They offered twice what they had originally promised, saying they had always believed in me and were proud of my success. I laughed in their faces and told them to leave. My dad got angry and started lecturing me about respecting my elders, while my mom cried about how success had changed me and made me arrogant. My sister called me that evening to lecture me about how I was being stubborn and should give them another chance because family is family. I blocked all their numbers and instructed security not to let them into any of my stores. My business is thriving without their support, and I don't need their money or their fake pride now. They had their chance to be part of my success story, but they chose to listen to their golden child instead. Now they can watch my success from the sidelines. Update 1: the past 2 weeks have been absolute chaos since my last post. After I blocked my family's numbers and banned them from my stores, they've taken their campaign against me to a whole new level. What started as simple family drama has evolved into a full-blown smear campaign in our community. My sister, leveraging her position as a respected doctor, has been particularly active in trying to destroy my reputation. She's been going to all our family friends, community gatherings, and social events, telling everyone how I've let success go to my head and abandoned our family values. She's even reached out to some of my high school friends on social media, spreading stories about how I've changed and become money obsessed. But here's where things get interesting. Yesterday, I had lunch with Luke, an old family friend who works as a senior manager at my dad's construction company. He revealed the real reason behind my parents' sudden interest in investing in my business, and it's not what they've been telling everyone. According to Luke, my dad's construction company has been struggling severely for the past year. They've lost 4 major contracts to competitors in the last 6 months alone. 2 of these were government contracts they'd held for over a decade. Their profit margins have shrunk from 25% to barely 8%, and they've had to lay off nearly 30% of their workforce. My dad has been putting on a brave face in public, but behind closed doors, they're desperately looking for ways to diversify their investments. The biggest revelation came when Luke told me about my sister's role in all of this. Remember how she was so against my business 2 years ago, calling retail a dying industry? Well, it turns out she recently lost over $800,000 in a cryptocurrency investment scheme. She had convinced several of her doctor colleagues to invest with her, promising them incredible returns. Now she can't pay them back, and there are whispers about potential legal action. She was the one who suggested to our parents that they should try to get a piece of my business now. The same person who torpedoed my original business plan is now desperate to be part of it. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so infuriating. My parents have been relentless in their attempts to contact me. They've shown up at my house multiple times, always conveniently around dinner time when they know I'll be home. They've tried coming to my stores during peak hours, causing scenes that disrupt business. Last Thursday, they even sent their corporate lawyer to my office with investment proposal documents. The lawyer, trying to sound reasonable, suggested that since my parents had mentally committed to investing 2 years ago, they should get preferential terms now. He proposed a 40% stake for the same amount they had originally offered, claiming it would be fair compensation for their initial intention to invest. I had my own lawyer send them a cease and desist letter, warning them about harassment. The most frustrating part of all this has been the reaction from our extended family. Relatives who never cared about my career before are suddenly very invested in this situation. My uncle Robert, who himself had refused to help me when I was starting out, had the audacity to suggest that I owe my success to our good family name in the community. He seems to have conveniently forgotten that I've deliberately avoided using our family name in any of my business dealings specifically to avoid such claims. My cousin Brianna, who works at the same hospital as my sister, told me that my sister has been trying to contact my business partners behind my back. She's been reaching out to them on LinkedIn, sending emails, and even trying to schedule meetings, claiming that as a doctor, she could provide valuable insights into the fashion retail business. She's been telling them that she has connections with social media influencers through her dermatology practice that could benefit the business. I've had to send emails to all my partners and investors, explicitly stating that my family members have no connection to the business and any communication from them should be ignored. It's embarrassing having to send such emails, but it's necessary given how aggressive they've become in their attempts to get involved. The whole situation has started affecting my daily operations. My employees have noticed the tension, especially after my parents' latest scene at our flagship store. I had to call a staff meeting to address the situation and assure everyone that these family issues wouldn't impact their jobs or the business. I've also discovered that my sister has been approaching my suppliers, trying to gather information about our business operations. Two of our main fabric suppliers called to ask if they should be sharing business details with her, as she had contacted them claiming to be a potential investor. I've had to reach out to all our major suppliers to clarify that no one from my family has any authority to access our business information. For now, I'm trying to focus on our upcoming expansion plans. We're in the final stages of securing locations in 2 new cities, and I can't let this family drama distract me. But it's getting increasingly difficult as more relatives keep taking sides and trying to get involved. Some of them have even started showing up at my house unannounced, trying to mediate the situation. I've hired a private security service for both my home and businesses, and I'm in the process of moving to a new address that my family doesn't know about. It's sad that things have come to this, but I need to protect what I've built. The fact that they're trying to force their way into my success after actively trying to prevent it 2 years ago shows exactly why I was right to keep them at arm's length in the first place. Update 2: What I'm about to share explains so much about my family's recent behavior. Last week, my cousin Emily, who works as a nurse at my sister's hospital, reached out to me with some shocking information about what's really been going on behind the scenes. According to Emily, my sister's cryptocurrency losses weren't just bad, they were catastrophic. She didn't just lose $800,000 as I previously mentioned. She had actually convinced 15 of her colleagues, including several senior doctors and hospital administrators, to invest a total of $2.3 million in what turned out to be a sophisticated crypto scam. She had promised them returns of 300% within 6 months, using her reputation as a successful doctor to gain their trust. When the investment scheme collapsed, she tried to cover it up by borrowing money from other colleagues to pay the initial investors, essentially turning it into a small-scale Ponzi scheme. Now she's being investigated by the hospital board for unprofessional conduct and potential fraud. Several of her colleagues have already filed formal complaints, and there's talk about reporting her to the medical board. Emily also revealed that my sister had been spreading vicious rumors about me at the hospital long before any of this investment drama started. Back when I first approached our parents about investing in my business 2 years ago, she had been furious that they were showing interest in my venture. She had spent years being the golden child, and suddenly, our parents were excited about something I was doing. That's when she decided to sabotage my business plan. She didn't just casually suggest to our parents that retail was dying, she actually created a detailed presentation about the decline of brick-and-mortar retail, using cherry-picked data and misleading statistics. She even hired a business consultant, using our parents' money, to write a negative assessment of my business plan, which she then presented to our parents as an independent evaluation. The real kicker? Emily found out that my sister had actually tried to pitch a very similar business idea to our parents 6 months after they refused to invest in mine. She wanted to open a chain of medical spas combining her dermatology practice with retail skincare products. Our parents turned her down because they were already struggling with their construction business, but she conveniently never mentioned this when she was criticizing my retail venture. Speaking of our parents' business, things are much worse than I initially thought. Through some business contacts, I learned that their company is facing 6 different lawsuits from contractors who weren't paid for completed work. They're also under investigation for allegedly using substandard materials on a government project. Their biggest government contract, worth $12 million annually, is up for review next month, and word in the industry is that they're unlikely to retain it. This explains their aggressive attempts to buy into my business. Last week, they sent another lawyer, this time offering to buy a 60% stake at 3 times the market value. When I refused, my dad actually tried to claim that he had intellectual property rights over some of my business ideas because I had discussed them with him during our initial investment talks. My lawyer shut that down quickly, but it shows how desperate they've become. My sister's behavior has become increasingly erratic. She showed up at one of our store locations last weekend, trying to convince my employees that she was a silent partner in the business. When security escorted her out, she threatened to create negative publicity by posting fake reviews online and contacting fashion bloggers with made-up stories about our business practices. The most absurd part is that my parents are still trying to guilt-trip me into accepting their investment. They've been telling relatives that they paid for my education. They didn't. I had scholarships and loans that I paid off myself, that they supported my early career, they actively discouraged it, and that my success is built on the foundation they provided, the same foundation they tried to pull out from under me 2 years ago. I've had to hire a PR firm to monitor and manage any potential fallout from their threats. We've also strengthened our security measures at all locations after my sister threatened to stage protests outside our stores. My lawyers are preparing restraining orders just in case things escalate further. The saddest part is discovering through Emily that my sister had actually applied for a business loan using forged documents claiming she was a partner in my company. The bank fortunately contacted me for verification before processing anything, but it shows how far she's willing to go in her desperation. For now, I'm focusing on protecting my business and employees from their increasingly desperate attempts to force their way in. It's tragic to watch my family self-destruct like this, but they made their choices 2 years ago. Now they have to live with the consequences. Update 3: It's been half a year since my last update, and a lot has happened. My business has continued to thrive despite my family's attempts to interfere. We've successfully opened stores in 3 new cities instead of the planned 2, and our online sales have quadrupled in the past quarter. The brand has gained a strong following among young professionals, and we've even been featured in several major fashion magazines. The situation with my sister finally reached its breaking point. 5 of her colleagues filed lawsuits against her over the cryptocurrency scheme, and the evidence they presented was damning. They had text messages, emails, and recorded conversations where she promised guaranteed returns and used her position as a doctor to establish credibility. The medical board launched a formal investigation into her conduct, and she's been placed on indefinite administrative leave from the hospital. Last month, I heard from Emily that my sister had a complete meltdown at work when she received the notice from the medical board. She started screaming about how unfair life was and how I was somehow responsible for her problems because I refused to help her. Security had to escort her out of the hospital. She's apparently moved back in with our parents and rarely leaves the house anymore. Speaking of our parents, their business situation has gone from bad to worse. They lost their government contract as expected, but what really hit them hard was losing their professional licenses in 3 states due to the substandard materials scandal. They had to lay off most of their staff and sell their main office building. Dad's company now operates out of a small rented office with just 5 employees, mostly handling small residential projects. They've stopped trying to invest in my business, but they've found a new angle to attack me. They're telling everyone who'll listen that I'm responsible for destroying our family's reputation. Mom has been going around to family gatherings, which I obviously don't attend anymore, crying about how her son abandoned them in their time of need. Dad has been spreading rumors in the business community that I stole my initial business ideas from his company, though nobody takes him seriously anymore. On a more positive note, I recently got engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years, Brianna. She's been my rock throughout this whole ordeal, helping me stay focused on what matters and not get dragged down by the family drama. We're planning a small destination wedding with just close friends and chosen family. When my parents found out about the engagement through social media, they tried to force their way into the planning by calling the wedding venues in our city, pretending to be the parents of the groom. Fortunately, we're getting married in another country, and they have no idea where. My business continues to grow beyond my expectations. We're now expanding into sustainable fashion lines and have partnerships with several eco-friendly manufacturers. The investor who believed in me when my parents backed out has become a close mentor and friend. He's helped me navigate the challenges of rapid growth while maintaining our company's values and culture. I've completely cut off contact with my entire family, including extended relatives who tried to play both sides. My new home has excellent security, and all my employees know not to engage with any member of my family. It's sad that things had to end this way, but I'm at peace with my decision. They showed their true colors when they abandoned me 2 years ago, and their recent actions have only confirmed that I made the right choice. Looking back, their betrayal was actually a blessing in disguise. If they had invested in my business, I would have been tied to them forever. Building everything on my own meant I got to do things my way, without their interference or attempts to control me. Success truly is the best revenge, and living well really is the best way to get back at those who tried to hold you down. Brianna and I are looking forward to starting our own family, one built on love, support, and mutual respect, all the things I never got from my biological family. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the one you're born into. I'm just glad I learned that lesson before it was too late.